Don in London, hello, and it's 21st of March 2009, Saturday morning, and my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol; my behaviour, any old olic you can think of, workaholic, alcoholic, relationship-aholic, and I'm now left with an ism which keeps me in the day. It's the day-to-day living that I can do. Now I'm in recovery from addiction, and it's not always easy, and the last fortnight's been quite difficult. I've had a bereavement, I've broken up with my partner, but she's alright I hope, and I've also been going through regime change to do with type 1 diabetes and clinical depression, so quite a lot of changes in my life all at once, and not necessarily good for me. Normally I try and keep one change going at a time, a bit like a day at a time, but sometimes we are overwhelmed by things happening which we have no control over, and the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, makes it all possible by just keeping me in the day and keeping me a little bit further away from a drink than I would otherwise be. And the gift is that really these days I am still alive and I'm still just about kicking, but sometimes, you know, we get overwhelmed by what's going on in our lives, and yesterday lunch I would have normally gone to Eaton Square, but I was just too exhausted, and insomnia and other things were on my mind, I guess. But I did get to a meeting last night, and it was good to hear that the person whose funeral I go to next week was remembered and will not be forgotten. Somebody who helped a lot of people just by being there. And that's the gift, really, for anybody in recovery. They can help others, and this is why I do these videos. I shared a AA preamble at the beginning of my videos, like now, because it slows me down and makes it possible to speak as I find in this moment. And I don't speak for AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, I just speak for myself, and nobody does. Nobody speaks on behalf of a fellowship. It's just a bunch of ordinary people getting along, with one common similarity, that is recovery. So the preamble goes like this. I'll get it the right way up. AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And you know, the program works in three ways. It helps me understand what spiritual might be, the spiritual connection to living, which is right now, the ability to cope, my emotional connection to living, which is what are my feelings today, and why and what can I do, and physically, keeping an eye on making sure I take the right medication for my type 1 diabetes, and that I can keep on doing the exercise I need, even though walking might be difficult. Sometimes bicycling is okay. So we work out a way to keep going, I guess, one day at a time in the fellowship, and then it goes into days, weeks, months, years, and sometimes people go out for another convincer or research. Fortunately for me, I haven't had to do that of late, but you know, these are they're testing times for me, just trying to keep afloat, and you know, the credit crunch as well, it all affects us. So I'll be glad when it gets a bit warmer here and I can turn off my utilities like the gas and the electric more often. Anyway, the fellowship of AA is really the focus of what keeps me going, and there are 12 action steps for me to live. They're action steps of living rather than an educational variety of steps. It's not something that I will ever graduate from. I can graduate each day, if you like, into another day, but the recovery goes on one day at a time. And the 12 action steps are in the book Daily Reflections, one step a month, and sometimes they're very obvious in what they're talking about, sometimes they're a bit oblique, a bit like me, but the March is the third month, and the third step reads, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And although it says we understood Him, it's actually our own personal understanding of what God may be in our lives. So I like my nuts and bolts borrowed from Gandhi and other people. God is truth, God is love, and God works through people. And I don't know if it's nuts and bolts to other people, it may be, it may be not. that the gift is that if we actually have an appeal to good conscience, the higher order of living that maybe we all aspire to, or try to aspire to, or would like to aspire to, good conscience and God are synonymous for me. So a lot of it, I don't know whether I'm an agnostic, an atheist, or a believer. Sometimes it changes. Life changes our outlook, and nasty shocks like people dying, when it seems unjustified and unnecessary. Well, I think that happens to us all, and we're all going to face that end sometime or later, but hopefully later in my case. So daily reflections, this one, it gives me a bit of inspiration on a daily basis, and it says here, March 21, material and spiritual well-being. Fear of economic insecurity will leave us. That comes from AA's Big Book, page 84. Having fear reduced or eliminated and having economic circumstances improve are two different things. When I was new in AA, I had those two ideas confused. I thought fear would leave me only when I started making money. However, another line in the Big Book jumped off the page one day when I was chewing on my financial difficulties. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded. And that's on page 127. I suddenly understood that this promise was a guarantee I saw, that it put priorities in the correct order, that spiritual progress would diminish that terrible fear of being destitute, just as it diminished many other fears. Today I try to use the talents God gave me to benefit others. I found that it is what others valued all along. I try to remember that I no longer work for myself. I only get the use of my wealth. I only get the use of the wealth God created. I never have owned it. My life's purpose is much clearer when I just work to help, not to possess. And I guess in my early days of living, all through my teens, I was more of a person with a philanthropic and good conscience outlook. But then the hard realities of life hit our family when my father had difficulties financially, and we all had to go out to work. And it's the order though which is important. Spiritual progress leads to less fear, and not having something is often better than not wanting something. And the difference is needs and wants. Some things we need to keep going, like enough, and some wants are beyond that, which is excess or surplus. But the spiritual condition is really enabling us to stop fearing what we don't know, that we can only live in the moment of now maybe and make use of it. And the other book I use in these videos, As Bill Sees It, a page a day or more depending on how you're feeling. And page 54, to deepen our insight. It is necessary that we extricate from an examination of our personal relations every bit of information about ourselves and our fundamental difficulties that we can, since defective relations with other human beings have nearly always been the immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism. No field of investigation could yield more satisfying and valuable rewards than this one. In other words, do a personal inventory of our good side and our bad side. Calm, thoughtful reflection upon personal relations can deepen our insight. We can go far beyond those things which were superficially wrong with us, to see those flaws which were basic flaws, which sometimes were responsible for the whole pattern of our lives. Thoroughness, we have found, will pay handsomely. And for me, I guess when I did it thoroughly, three big things came out at me, and you've probably heard them over and over again if you've been watching my videos. It was fear, putting on a brave face, and utilising my ego, that brittle part which can break very easily, and under which there is brave facing maybe, or more likely fear. And those things, those three elements, were my drivers, if you like. Fear kept me on the move, moving along and doing anything and everything that other people would appreciate, maybe, when in fact it would have been better to have a bit more courage, a bit more faith and a bit more confidence. So courage, faith and confidence are my touchstones today, and the 12 steps themselves, open, honest and willing always to make improvements if I can, and also to scrutinise where I am and what I've done. So when I say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, I gain the wisdom from scrutiny and also from what others say. More later.